Hello there, I'm Adam Forbes. I am the host of the Corporate Escapology podcast and the author of Corporate Escapology, the book. Today, my guest is Kirsty Lewis. She is the founder of the School of Facilitation, which is a business that she's been running for 10 years to help businesses and individuals get much, much better at facilitating workshops and running training courses. She's run that business for 10 years, but before that, she spent about 8 years as an associate. And I really want us to explore what that associate model is and how it works and why she went down that route. Because before that, she spent about 10 years, I think, working in Bass and also Diageo, working for Guinness, working initially in sales and marketing, and then going and using some of the skills that she'd been developing on the front line to teach others in those organizations how to do it better. So let's meet Kirsty now. Thanks for joining me, Kirsty. Really happy to have you here on the Corporate Escapology podcast. Great to meet you today.
Good to meet you too. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Right. Let's start with the beginning of your career. There's so many things I want to talk to you about, but the first one, let's just start at the beginning. Like, you went into Bass as a graduate trainee, so you'd done your degree. What sort of drew you into corporate life from university, where you'd not had much exposure to that?
I need to go back a year. So when I was at uni, I did a 3-year degree, classic, did geography because I enjoyed it. And then I was very sporty, and then I stood for election and was the sports president of Manchester University for a year. So I got a felt sense of what it was like to organise things. I just organised lots and lots of sport. And at that time in the 90s, you then had something called the Milk Round, which I think maybe still exists today. And so I applied for about 5 or 6 different companies. So I applied to Mars, P&G, Procter & Gamble, Bass, IBM, because they were local. And I got 2 interviews, P&G and Bass. And if anybody knows P&G, you have to be quite a malleable individual, is my understanding, to fit their mold. I didn't realize at the time I was not that. However, Bass, and for those of you who are going, Bass, what's Bass? Bass is a brewery. It was a brewery. It was bought out by Molson Coors.
Oh, was it? Okay.
About 10 years ago. But Bass, for those of you around long enough, have a red triangle, and it's the oldest trademark in the UK. That's my fact. So anyway, they offered me a job. That's the only reason I went there. Genuinely. It literally was one of 2, and they offered me a job, and it was in the drinks industry, and I was told I was going to work in the glamorous world of marketing. So I was like, oh yeah, hell, I'll take that.
So what sort of things did you do? Was it a program that you...
Yeah,
or was
it was brilliant.
Yeah, okay. How was that?
Amazing that they sent me straight to Scotland, and I worked on Tennent's. So for your Scottish listeners and viewers, Tennent's lager at the time, very, the red tea. So I went to Tea in the Park. If anyone remembers Tea in the Park, I think I saw
was Tennent's. That was the tea was Tennent's, was it?
Yes.
Well, what cup of tea?
No, it was Tennent's. I lived in Derby. That was interesting when I worked in Burton-on-Trent, Derby. I did insights work there. And for those of you who might be listening who know me, that's sort of the data bit. That's certainly not me, but I did it. My quantum, my qual work. Then they said, you're not cut out to be a marketeer. Really bad messaging from HR. Really bad messaging. Now I look back on it, but I took it because it was the 90s and I knew no different. Went into sales, trotted around Leeds, Halifax, Bradford, Huddersfield as a sales rep. And then went back into research. Wasn't enjoying it. I was on a night out in Newcastle with the sports lot, and a friend who was at Guinness said to me, there's some jobs going at Guinness. Would you be interested? And I went, okay, yeah. So we're 3 years in now. But yeah, I said, oh, okay, then I'll apply for a job at Guinness.
Wow. And where was that?
Where or when?
Where?
Guinness is based at that time in a place called Park Royal, which is West London. Just
okay.
Hanger Lane.
You moved back down south then?
Yeah, so I moved down to London.
Yeah, good. Okay. And was that part of Diageo then, Guinness?
So
That's later.
let me give you the Diageo story.
Yeah.
So Diageo, some of you may go, what's Diageo? So Diageo is a number one, it depends, one or two global drink company. Brands known for Guinness, Smirnoff, Johnny Walker, Black Label, and Baileys, plus a plethora of whiskies, gins, vodkas. But those are the four big brand names. At the time, when I joined, it was purely Guinness, it was Grand Met, it was Pillsbury, and it was Burger King. So they owned these four parts. They were four separate businesses, but they were owned under a big umbrella. So I was there in 99, and it must have been happening all in the background that this new company was being created to go to the stock market, and it was called Diageo. And the strategy was then it would be an alcoholic drink company. So they sold off Pillsbury and they sold off the other one. What did I just say to you?
Burger King.
Burger King.
How could you forget Burger King? Phantom. Yeah, okay. So you were part of that. So, I mean, that must have been kind of interesting seeing like you're in one business, but you see all this stuff going on around you in these other businesses. And you get the sense then of how big this
Yeah,
organization is and the reach it has globally as well.
massive. I got moved back into sales again, into account management. And originally I was like, oh my God. Like to sales to me felt like, for English listeners, this will make sense. Like the double glazing person, like it was a hard sell.
Yeah.
However, I was really lucky. I was working on a brand that people wanted, and I had some amazing managers. So the ethos at Guinness was your manager is your teacher. And this is something that Diageo took forward as well. Like the learning was in-house. Like the senior leadership had to lead by example. So they ran all the workshops, all the learning. So I had amazing teachers who shared all their knowledge. And I suddenly realized that selling, the commercial element, it was about good relationships. Yes, the numbers have to add up. Yes, they need to make sense. But at the end of the day, people buy people. So that was just a massive shift in my thinking. And then I stayed in sales and I was actually, I can do this. I don't massively enjoy it, but I quite enjoy it. And then there was this dream role that I discovered in Diageo called a capability manager, which we'd now call L&D, learning and development. And I went on sabbatical and came back after a 6-month sabbatical and applied. There was a job that had come up in Europe and then in a global role for a sales capability manager. I was really happy. I had 2.5 years of talking about learning, running workshops, so I was on my feet. I had 2.5 years of getting on an aeroplane and either going upstairs or turning left. I literally, Adam, and for those of you, sorry, reference, I was allowed to fly business class. And it was the first time. I was like early 30s, but I genuinely used to say a little thank you to whoever was listening, that I was like, I know this. I'm lucky. I'm flying to China. I know I'm lucky. I'm flying to South Africa. I know this. And like, I think not all my colleagues were that humble. This is my God-given right. I need my BA Gold card. So for me, going into capability, and it was also, let's date stamp it. This was 2005 to 2007. So it was quite a new kind of way of working. We were the custodians of a global program called the Diageo Way of Selling.
Yes, I saw.
And this was how the 10,000 salespeople at Diageo learned.
So just really push down this,
Yeah.
the organization.
But luckily, so we were the global team and we had amazing regional counterparts in Asia, Africa, Europe, America, LATAM. And my job was to talk to those counterparts and engage them, influence them, bring them up to speed, coach them. And then there'd be times I'd go into their markets or they would take and do the delivery themselves, especially when it was in their own language and not English.
Great. And so you didn't stay there, but when you were there, did you think this is the career for me? I'm going to be a learning and development professional or capability.
I didn't know that was a thing. until
No,
I left,
okay.
actually.
You just sort of, did you see it as a project or a sort of single role, this, and then you might go back into the core business?
Yeah, I look. It's a really great question because I think things then changed so much when I was in that role, as in what happens next. And I don't know what I would have done afterwards, but I fell into like this sweet spot. Like I didn't know that I could do workshops, if that makes sense, but I was suddenly doing them. It's not like I was just, and I was on a big discovery again, not realizing on my personal development discovery, someone had put me on an NLP workshop, which really just opened my eyes to my personal beliefs, values, how I did things, how I built rapport. And I was just having all these epiphanies in my early 30s. I
Yeah,
was like, oh, quite good at this. And
yeah.
the other thing that happened, and I'd be curious to hear it from your point of view as well, because you've worked in big corporates. I didn't realize I was probably quite good at what I did because no one told me,
Mm,
because I was already playing with a team of high
yeah.
potentials in a high performing team, which was, on reflection, I look back and go, God, it was awesome. But I didn't know, so I felt actually I was quite shit. So I was
I
always
think that's a
wondering.
very, very common phenomenon. In fact, I was talking to somebody just this morning about that. It's sometimes only when you leave you realize how good the people were around you, and therefore how also good you were because you kind of stayed there, but also how much you know that you just take for granted because everyone knows that around you too. So you don't bother saying it. And then on top of it, the other thing is, in a kind of operation environment, people aren't giving you the pats on the head every day. It would just get boring, wouldn't it? So you just stop that stops happening, and it's only when you go outside that you go, oh, actually I know stuff here.
So
It's very valuable what I know.
it's really, and so for anyone listening to this, please know that you are good at what you do, even if someone doesn't tell you. Because I've got a really good, another Kirsty friend, Kiwi. She was my HRD for a long time. And I remember like speaking to her maybe 5 years after I'd left and just going, were we good? Because I think we were, but no one ever told us. And she was like, yeah, I recognize that now, because she'd left by then. We were pretty appalling at telling people thank you and you're good at your job.
Yeah.
It was an amazing environment. I really want to just name it. Like, makes me sound like I'm bitching, but I loved my time at Diageo.
I think it just is part of the culture, and it's fairly consistent across different industries that I've spoken with too. I think the bar is high to get in.
Yeah.
And, once you're in there, everyone's kind of like meeting generally, the ones that aren't, don't you? Everybody else otherwise is very reliable, and quality is just, built in.
And it's solution orientated is a big thing I noticed. Like, come with the solution. Yeah, challenge me for sure.
Yeah.
Come with an idea of what we could do differently, though. And if we need to discuss it, we discuss it. Or come with me and go, I'm challenging this. This is the solution. This is my recommendation to go forwards. And that was just always a joy because it felt very progressive in that way.
Yeah.
And you were stuck navel gazing. Anyway,
So, but it didn't last.
it didn't last. Shall I tell you?
So what happened there then? Did it come to an end, or did you bring it to an end?
Yeah. So I can date stamp this for you. It was the 7th of April, 2007.
Very specific.
Yeah, I can tell you where I was, Queen's Club, London. And a friend was running a workshop and they said, would you come and be a guinea pig and help us test a concept? And it was all about what if you were to create the outcomes that you want to achieve, life, work, personal. And we went through a series of activities. But me being me, had just said yes because it was my friend. So I turned up. I had no clue what I was meant to be doing, Adam. And so he was like, so you need an outcome. And I was like, what? Like, so I literally, I can still see myself sitting there in this funny little room, facetiously writing, it is April the 7th, 2009, and I am an NLP coach and I earn £5,000 a month. And literally for the rest of the day, we worked through, well, what are your values around that? Why was that important to me? What are the beliefs I have, positive and limiting? Anyway, so I worked all through this and I had no intention of leaving Diageo at that point, by the way. It hadn't even occurred to me. So I'm cycling home because I lived in London at the time, cycling from Queen's Club back over to Clapham Junction. And I'm ringing a girlfriend who's an Aussie. I was like, hey, Mona, I think I might leave Diageo because I found this thing that I really like, which is workshops and doing training. And she was like, bad Australian accent incoming. Matey, I think that's a great idea. You're awesome at that kind of stuff. Like, everybody loves you. And I was like, hmm. So literally, that is what happened. Now,
I
I
did not
do,
notice that until that moment then.
well, what I do notice now, I, for the first time ever, kept a diary that year. So I'd gone back into my diary. I've read it. It was quite dark. This is a first revelation. I've never spoken about this publicly. I was partying too hard, drinking too much, exhausted. I was flying around the world 2 weeks out of 4. I would literally, and I was playing hockey at the weekends. I was club captain. I was 32. Can I just say this? Anyone in their 50s listening to this will be going, oh my God, that's exhausting. I'm exhausted saying it, and I'm feeling like, oh my God. But I could cope then. But I wonder, with a deep down at a very unconscious level, I wasn't particularly happy.
Yeah.
And I knew it was coming.
Mm. Well, also maybe it wasn't sustainable, that lifestyle, that you just like, at some stage something's gonna give, isn't it? Yeah.
And what happened was we got April, and then I did not go into the office and resign because my brain was just like, what the hell's going on here? So I started reaching out to people that I knew inhabited this world that I thought I'd like to go and join. So I started.
You left, you did
Correct.
then.
Like, even before I resigned,
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I had some of these training agencies that worked for me as a vendor. So I started to say to them, can I come to your office and hang out? And then I'd say to them, hey, I'm thinking of leaving. What do you think? Can I make it? Would that be possible? And literally, everybody was so helpful at that time. They would sit me down, they'd explain the world and how it worked, what to expect, what not to expect, how it could be and how it could play out. Like, I had other people sit me down and go, right, Kirsty, you need to do a spreadsheet of your finances. Like, what do you need to earn a month to be able to survive? I then also got very strong counsel to go and get coaching, like to do my inner work. It's not enough just to have a plan. You need to sort out, and I use a very uncouth phrase now, I'm sorry, like sort your shit out. So if you don't, it's going to hit you.
Yeah.
So you have to do the inner work. It's not enough to have a plan. Like, so that, and there were a lot of tears, I'd like to say. There was a lot of crying because of, like, I think probably as well, maybe it was my body going, but this is it. Like, this is what you want to do, but it's scary.
It was scary though.
It
Yeah,
was scary, yeah.
of course.
So I didn't resign until, I think I resigned early October because I wanted to give a 3-month notice period. And also, my boss knew this afterwards. We were re-releasing and updating the program, Diageo Way of Selling. And I also knew the big trips that were coming up. So my final business trip was to Sydney for a week. I wasn't going to forgo that. So, yeah.
Great. Well, there were 2 other things I just wanted to pick up on that you said there, because I just think they're really important lessons for other people. One is network, and how we think about network, as LinkedIn, we've got to just like build our network on LinkedIn. But this network around you of vendors, partners, customers, whatever, these people are much more likely to be able to help you. They know you. In some cases, when they are a vendor of yours, they're actually very incentivized to help you. They want to build a relationship with you, because they don't know that you're going to go anywhere. So they're very open often with you about what they're doing and keen to help. And in a way, it's a very easy first step into that networking before you have to do horrendous things that you probably don't want to do and may never need to do. And the second one is business opportunities, or through those vendors. And that was actually my experience. One of my first clients was a vendor who had been a supplier to me when I was at BP, and I then carried on doing some work for them. And again, these things are all about sort of de-risking it. So part of your preparation is looking around. Who are the people that rate me and might want to work with me, or might give me just that bridging role that helps me just get started.
Yes,
And I don't need to sell myself cold to somebody. And that's effectively what you were doing. You were using this network to kind of establish and test, but also, I'm guessing, build some relationships that might be useful for you once you
Yeah.
had them there.
And again, I look back now and I wasn't that strategic. And I,
Maybe
and I, it's a thing that it is now. Like LinkedIn only just started then.
Mm.
I think, when did LinkedIn start?
When was it? Maybe, yeah. It was
Yeah, I was one of the first. I
very
was
early.
really early adopter of it, but didn't use it to effect. I didn't think about going on LinkedIn and announcing to the world or finding lots of people. But in my classic style of just talking to people and sharing and swapping telephone numbers and just having conversations,
Mm.
that worked. So I'd encourage anyone thinking of wanting to step out from a corporate space or an organization is think about who is that first degree network
Yeah.
that you enjoy working with or who's interesting to you. For sure. Like start thinking there first. Don't try and jump the hoops and go third degree just yet.
Great. So what did you do then? So you resigned, you had your 3 months notice, you got your great trip out to Sydney, you came back. What was
Yeah.
planning to do?
So during that 6 months of discovery, I had talked to a couple of training agencies, and there was one in particular that said, send us a video of you running a workshop. And so we can just take a look at how you do things. And if we think you're a fit, you can come and join the team. And so I did that. And they interviewed me. Met various partners and business people in their team. And then they said to me, when you've left and you've done another bit of training that we need you to do, you can be one of our associates to deliver sales training.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, God, how did it feel doing that video?
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm an extrovert.
You-
Honestly,
No, but you hadn't left either at that time.
no, I know.
You-
That was the only thing. So I told my boss I was filming myself so that I could give myself some practice and some feedback. As all good trainers, coaches, and facilitators should, Adam.
That's right. Just go back. It's okay. So we also skirted over a big important word here, associate. So why did they offer you an associate role rather than a employed job? And what was your understanding of what associates were at that?
So an associate is someone who works on behalf of an agency. And the best way I can describe it now is the agency has the relationship with the client, Unilever, RBS, Disney, Diageo, Pernod. The associate is literally the gun for hire. So we're just like extra people. The benefit of being an associate now, for me, the benefit as an individual, flexibility, choice of work, who I work with, when I work. The benefit for the training agency of having associates is the cost. So as soon as you put someone on PAYE, you know there's a cost. NI, national insurance, pension, holiday pay, sick pay.
Yeah.
Why would you want that when you
Yeah.
don't? The work isn't smooth. It's like it undulates.
But did you think you would get 5 days a week in you think that's this?
No.
So that was never your plan.
No, but you know that because the day rates I was getting paid, this is one of the things that got very clearly described to me when I was doing that research phase was your day rates are high. Like you'll get paid. So this particular company was super brilliant. A good day rate of about 1,200, 1,100 pounds a day. But they're like, so you might do 2 or 3 days in a week, but then you might not work for 2 weeks. So that's got to cover you for your holiday, for your pension, da, 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 da. So you think it's high because, and also if anyone's listening who's employed at the moment goes, oh, wow. Yeah, wow, imagine 5 days a week, £1,000. You do the maths and you go, oh, you get 20 grand a month. You're like, no, it just so doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to cope. You'd kill yourself.
Yeah. Would you also get paid for the preparation work, not just the workshop?
It depends,
too?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's more than just the showing up
Mm.
component.
In facilitation and training for
Yeah.
sure.
But did you also hedge your bets with a couple of training organizations too? So you had more than one dependency.
So I worked initially for this main company. I worked with them for years. It was great. We had a really good relationship, and I would work with other companies, but on a smaller scale. What you end up having to work out is the sort of jigsaw puzzle of how you fit everybody in.
Yeah.
Also, there's a ruling in the UK called IL35, and it just depends which way the wind's blowing, how you had to manage that. So what it means is you had to just be able to demonstrate you didn't work for one company 100% of the time.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah. If you're interested in that, look online.
Yeah, please. I can't explain it.
But you stayed there a long time doing that, didn't you? With that kind of model. So first of all, were you then, you had your own business then that you were then invoicing the
Correct. And that's what you have to do.
So, and you stayed working in that way for how long? Was it 10 years? Was it nearly as long as you worked in the corporates?
Yeah. No, 2008 through to 2015.
Okay. Okay, but quite a long time working
Yeah.
with that kind of model. So you really majored on the sales, so absolutely linked to what you'd learned
Yeah.
at Diageo. And did you also find that some of your credibility came from that training that you'd done at Diageo too? Did you introduce yourself as somebody who'd...
Yeah. Because I was very lucky this agency had really high caliber, like I'd say tier 1, like Unilever, Disney, RBS.
Yeah,
And so you could say when I was at Diageo or when I worked with
yeah.
these types of customers, like I was working with sales guys, and more the guys than the girls. Like the blokes wanted you to have some badges. They needed to know you'd been in the trenches, that you
Yeah.
had the painful negotiations, that you weren't just sort of standing up at the front of the room reciting a script. Yeah, they wanted to know that you really got it and you understood their world. Then what happened was I started to, this idea. I've always had this thing that learning and workshops are designed a certain way and how you show up when you're doing that work. And when I was looking around the world to see who else taught this, I couldn't really find anyone who showed others how to design learning, design great workshops. It was all very in the educational space. I never saw it in the corporate space. So I've always had this itch about, what makes a great workshop? What are the core ingredients? Like, where do you find great activities? And it was never sort of showing up. So I started investigating that and talking about it more. And then one day I wrote an article on LinkedIn, it's still there, where the owner of the agency I'd worked with loads gave me some brilliant feedback. And he'd come to watch and observe me as a trainer, and then did some coaching with me. And I just wrote an article and said, everybody needs this. If you're a trainer, we all need to sharpen our saw. We all need to, thank you, Toby. And Joe, I was just like endorsing it. And I just put a tag at the bottom, if interested, drop me a line. We all know that things like that, especially in 2014, gets lost in the world of LinkedIn. No one cares.
No.
Except the owner of the agency cared and took great umbrage. He decided that I was whatever he decided and basically stopped offering me work.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I didn't know that for a long time. And I was just like, where's my diary? Like, it's looking very empty. But here's the thing. Here's the motto, team. When one door closes, another door opens. And what was fascinating was Diageo came knocking. And I'd done no work for Diageo since I'd left.
Really?
I'm not one of those people, by the way, who leaves and goes straight back. And they came to me with this. I then had like 4 years work with them, doing some really big European and global projects in sales.
Really? Directly then now? Yeah, okay.
So
No
that's how it.
agency involved at all, just directly for the... But as a contractor then no.
I had a team. So basically, they gave me some amazing briefs. It was like, first one was, can you help us assess our salespeople around Europe on their sales skills and capability? So we designed the framework. I then had to find salespeople, sales trainers, sales coaches in different countries who spoke the language, train them up on what they were going to be observing in the Diageo salesperson. And then they would do 3 in a car and 2 in a car. It was brilliant. I look back on it now, I'm like, it was a great project. And then the next one was helping Diageo refine and update Diageo way of selling, interestingly. And again, can you find us English and local language speaking trainers in sales? So it was really niche.
Yeah.
That I'm still to this day very proud. I found a Thai speaking sales trainer who could also speak English, or a Vietnamese or Argentinian. Give me a challenge like that and I love that. But
that basically built your business then. That
yeah, I didn't realize. Now I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, you said, wow, you I mean, I hear about this thing quite often where somebody uses a project the client funds and that allows them to set that whole business up around that and replicate or duplicate or whatever what they've done there. That is tremendous. So you did that for 4 years. Again, all this great Diageo, when I was at Diageo experience.
So, took you a lot. Right. Thanks, Diageo. Yeah, that was just there for so.
Well, I mean, firstly, you've done all that agency work in between, associate work, I mean, in between, but it also probably didn't harm you that you'd been in Diageo before that too. So
Yeah.
you put the work in to deserve that.
Thank you.
And then 4 years later, and were you doing any other work, or was it just working for Diageo at the time?
No, there was other work.
There was
I'm
other
trying to think what it is. I had other clients. So this is then, it's almost like the doors opened and other clients started to come forwards. Now, what was interesting is for a long time it was sales, but my business now is called School of Facilitation. So that was the thing that I really wanted to do, was train other people to be really great facilitators or trainers. And so over the last, and SOF is 10 years old now. So I inaugurated her in August 2014, changed my business, my old business name, which was Blue Tortoise, to SOF, School of Facilitation, in 2017. And slowly over time, just going through an adjusting process of moving out of the sales work and purely into facilitation and training.
Really? Okay. And so tell us that then, like what do you see as the difference? What was the gap? I mean, I think you've sort of mentioned it, that this kind of capability development, sharpening the sword and stuff. So what was the gap that you saw, and why was that shift the opportunity for you?
So I came, as I mentioned to you, like at Diageo, the managers, it was a model they called leaders as teachers. So
Yeah.
the leaders were the teachers. And what a lot of companies still do, is go, you're really intelligent and you're super senior. You must know how to run a workshop. You know how to lead people, so you must know how to train. Here, some companies are super generous and go, here's the information. Others go make it up and work it out.
Mm.
And that's not true. And we all know that sitting in a meeting is painful enough. So imagine suddenly someone going, oh, by the way, Adam's going to run the workshop, or you're going to learn how to sell or be a marketeer or finance. And then you're like, Adam can't even bloody run a meeting. How's that going to work out for us? It's true, Adam. I don't know that. And so this is where I was like, I think more and more organizations want their people to be good at meetings, want to be good at training, want to be good at facilitating. And they're two different things, by the way, facilitating and training.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to do that. Now, so that's what I do. I help them know how to design the learning in the first place, but then how to stand up and deliver it, what to do with the room, virtual or in person.
Okay, so 10 years, that is a big achievement, isn't it? 10 years running a business that you've built from scratch yourself. Amazing.
Thank you.
What's it called, the retreat that you've got coming up?
We're going to call it SoFest. It's a play on SOF.
It's a nice pet, son. Good one.
Thank you. 3 days for facilitators, trainers, consultants, coaches, all things for us. So I wanted to create a space where we're doing our learning that's helping us develop and grow as individuals, in our business, but also in our practice of facilitation or training. It's a space to come and meet other like-minded souls, people who just get it. So you can just drop into a conversation quite quickly and go, oh, I've got this client and this is going on. And people go, oh, yeah, da, 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 versus trying to explain it to your partner. And they're like, oh, bless you. Oh, that sounds hard. You're like, no, I need to talk this through. So we got that. It's in nature. It is not in a conference room, because there is nothing worse being stuck in the dark.
Or a Zoom call.
Or in a Zoom call. So we're in nature. We're in, bizarrely, the Essex countryside. I never thought I'd do something in Essex.
Very beautiful.
But it's stunning. We have a lake we can go swimming in. We've got woods to walk around.
Oh, nice.
Big teepees.
When is this? January?
June. I'm not that mean to people. June. Early June. I set up a WhatsApp group for facilitators and trainers, and we've got just over 200 people in it now, and thriving, people asking questions.
Perfect source of data when you're trying to sell a festival.
We've got
Very smart.
70 people coming at as of December.
That's brilliant.
I'm aiming for 120.
But there's so many things that are interesting about your journey, but I do just think this way of commercializing your knowledge is just really interesting. And you can do it in a way of selling yourself, can't you? And not selling yourself, but you know what I mean? Selling yourself, what you can. I said that's an option.
Other story.
Too tight. But you can, you're selling yourself, but it's not scalable, that model. Well, you found ways to scale it by other people that you can bring in to support. But now this community bit is another way to sort of scale this business and create new revenue streams that are maybe a bit less dependent on you personally, or just Kirsty running everything and being in the middle of that whole web. There's others that could start to do things too. I had a super interesting.
Thanks, Adam. I do want to make a point though for anyone listening to this and they're like thinking, oh, I'm about to leave or I'm 2 years in. This has taken, I left in 2008. I just want you to know it takes time. So please build that. I was not a foundation.
Well, it's been a long journey for you, but even your 6 months dipping your toe into this, building the network, really testing before you even went to that associate model. Then at that associate model, building your experience again, building your network through that. Then that Diageo experience, which really gave you that okay, I can actually do this now. And then turning that into those business. These are steps that have taken time, but you've been very methodical about each of these. It hasn't just been, oh, I feel like doing that and I'll just study do it. Look at the festival that's taken, several years to kind of form. And I think that is what life is like, and then you've had other things going on in your life outside of it, which have, created frictions to just doing exactly what you expect to happen. You've got to roll with those kind of punches too. But it's a different way of life than the one that you possibly would have imagined when you were at Diageo or even Bass, that was just going to stay in this, similar companies doing similar kinds of roles, getting more and more senior, bigger teams, bigger P&Ls, everything. And instead, you've created something very, very different. And I think a lot of people must look at that and think, that's an interesting model to follow. I might give something like that a go, which, hearing your warning, it's not happened overnight, but it still is an inspiring, and also it's realistic. It's open to people that.
Do you know what? Hearing you summarize my journey, and we don't know each other, and therefore it's really reinforcing, because I just don't see it like that. I just see it as a series of happy accidental incidents that have all just worked out. Because that's how genuinely I'm not a planner. So anyone who knows me will laugh and go, yeah, she's not a planner. A lot of what I do is so I enjoy life, and that I want to live a balanced life. I've lived in France for 5 years up the mountains. I've sailed the world. I look back, I've had so many adventures.
Yeah.
But this is the lifestyle that's afforded me to do that. You have to go to the edge. You do have to sometimes look over the edge and trust that it is going to be okay. And it always is. My personal experience, and if you want to take that as a checkpoint, please do. But it's calculated. So I know I've got good people around me. I have good advisors that I talk to. I've got good friends. I try and think things through, but I'm not big on the big plans. So if you say to me, what's the plan for next year? I'm like, I can tell you up to April. And that's, I mean, no, I'm doing. I can tell you to June.
Brilliant. Well, I think let's leave it there. I think that's a great point to end this on. And yeah, where can people find you? Where can people learn more about School of Facilitation and that community, that collective, particularly?
So come and find us on the website, schooloffacilitation.com,
Uh-huh.
or LinkedIn, Kirsty Lewis, and Instagram, School of Facilitation. Start there. And if you want to get involved with the collective on WhatsApp, find me on one of those and I'll send you the link. Or I'll give it to you, Adam.
Great. Well, fantastic meeting you. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.